Ghetto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1584 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. They're hosting us November 30th from noon to 3 at Palma's Kitchen. Be there. The Advantaged Investor Podcast from Raymond James Canada. Learn how to plan, invest, and live smarter. Season 7 of Yes, We Are Open, an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM El Grego. recyclemyelectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Today, returning to Toronto Mic'd is the founding president and CEO of the Electronic Products Recycling Association. It's Cliff Hacking.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Welcome back, Cliff.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So previously when you visited, and I've loved every one of them, how has it been so far? This is what, your third or no, maybe your fourth visit?
I think it's the fourth. We've done a number of different musical themes. The last time I was here, the Beatles had only just released the new song that came out after John's passing that they put together. So, yeah.
So we would kick out Recycle My Electronics related jams, if you will. And I remember even the good people at EPRA would contribute to this exercise, right? Like people would submit good recycling jams, am I right?
We ran a little contest. We awarded some prizes for people that could come up with songs that had something to do with electronics in them, and there were a bunch of really neat ones. I've got some favorites, but it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, but this time, Cliff, we're going to get to know a little more about you. We're going to learn a little more about recyclemyelectronics.ca, because this time I'm going to do my thing, and I pulled a clip to tell you how good I am at this, okay? So this is the moment in the podcast when I pat myself on the back. Are you familiar with Andy Kim?
I am.
You want to sing a little Rock Me Gently? How's your singing?
My singing's not bad, actually.
Well, you want to do a little bit? Rock me gently, rock me slowly. Okay, that's what this episode is, you and I singing. Okay, so here's a moment, a minute or two from Andy Kim earlier this week, okay? So this is fresh content. So let's listen.
I'm going to go on record as you're the only one that I've ever spoken to that just gets it all. And I feel so comfortable just talking about anything with you. Sometimes, you're there and you're having a conversation with someone and it's preordained. They've asked the question,
right?
They've written the question, and so how tall are you today? That one. And right. I still remember our photos. I got up this morning, and I knew that I had to do television and do all that kind of stuff. But I kept thinking about you, because here I'm relaxed. I'm not thinking about, okay, is the camera angle good? Is it not good? Is this going to be... I just knew that you'd be in a good mood.
So that's Andy Kim letting you know, Cliff, what you're in store for with this conversation.
A relaxed, good time. And it's always good to see you, Mike. It really is.
And I realized when I looked over, when I started playing the clip, that I never asked you to put on the headphones, and I'm like, oh, Cliff is missing it. Like it's like we just got those headphones on time. So
I listened to them after, so I listen to yours all the time. So I will just re-listen to mine. That's all.
I would love to hear. So do you cherry pick the episodes of Toronto Mike? Do you listen to? Are you a regular?
I'd say I cherry pick. I look to see who's going to be on, and then I kind of pick my favorites and go from there. So.
Okay, but would Andy Kim be on the list of episodes you'd listen to?
He probably wouldn't have been, but now that I've heard the intro,
you should listen.
I will go back and listen.
You should listen. I feel like Andy's working something out in my basement, and it's kind of special. So I highly recommend that you listen to the living legend that is Andy Kim, that was recorded earlier this week.
I will do that. I will absolutely do that. And I'll drop you a note to let you know how I liked it.
Okay, you better send me that note. Now, so Cliff, here's what we're going to do. We're going to just chat here. I will tell the listenership that, the good people at EPRA they haven't seeded any questions. There's been no rules here. I feel I can ask you anything I want because I'm just legitimately curious about some things. I've been talking about recyclemyelectronics.ca for years now, and I have great conversations. More on that later. But could you share with me like the origin story? I believe this EPRA starts in 2011. Am I right? Like, could you just tell me the origin story?
Absolutely. So a couple of things, I guess. As we started to look at what was going on with various regulations, governments, and this is all provincially regulated across Canada, as it is in the States. In some places in Europe, it's more national. Australia is more national, as an example, but this is all provincial regulation. So each province brings in its own regulation and says you're now obligated to look after this set of products. And unfortunately, the set of products varies province by province, but we'll just stick with the start and say, let's go very first. And actually, the very first province that we brought online was Saskatchewan. It was the first one to come into the fold. They are not as advanced right now as many other provinces in terms of the list of products that are obligated. But they bring that forward and they say, basically, manufacturers and retailers, you are now responsible to make sure you look after this end-of-life product. And so as manufacturers and retailers looked at that, they said, we need somebody to manage this because it's going to be different across the country. And so thus we started.
So who were you before? Who were you, Cliff, before 2011 when recyclemyelectronics.ca launches?
Well, as we started, I haven't yet launched my singing career. But on a serious note, on a serious note, I have been longing to join a choir. I used to, when I was in high school, sing, and I enjoy it.
So you weren't in a rock band or anything?
No. I was just it was actually there was four of us that did some a cappella stuff. It was
like a barbershop quartet.
In a sense, yes, in a sense.
The B sharps.
So I do aspire to get back to that, and it's just been a little too busy to be able to make that happen right now. But I mean, on a serious note, it's we enjoy the music greatly, and it's a big part of what we do.
Okay, so when you, because I'm trying to when EPRA begins in 2011, you're working for some big companies like HP, for example, right? I
was prior to this, I was with Hewlett Packard. I was vice president for the Americas of sales operations. Before that, I was with Canadian Tire, a great company as well, strong Canadian company, and did some great work there. Loved the people there. Really a good place, Canadian Tire.
Okay, so tell me. It's funny, my wife was watching this documentary on Netflix, and I said, oh my God, this is like perfect content before I sit down with Cliff Hacking to talk about recyclemyelectronics.ca. But tell me, Cliff, why is it a bad idea for me to throw, I don't know, my old phone bricks, as we say? Why can't I just throw it in the trash? Why is it a bad idea for me to throw my old printer in the trash?
Well, it's a bad idea for a number of reasons. First of all, there are materials of concern is the polite way we say it. If you wanted to be probably a little more accurate, you'd say there could be hazardous materials in some of the things that we throw out. But more importantly, there's a lot of valuable things that can be recycled. You don't want the metal that's in there in a landfill. In some cases, with the computer that you're looking at in front of you right now, there is a little bar across the top, a light bar that has mercury in it. That's what's lighting up that PC that you're looking at. And the result of that is we want to capture that mercury. We don't want that going into landfill. It's not good for people. It's been proven over years. We know this. So you want to make sure that it is recycled properly. And there's all kinds of valuable metals, and not just rare earth metals, but there's gold and silver and copper in many things, all the wires that you use. And one of the things that's a big hazard for us is the connectors, the wires that people use for charging their phones. They don't think about recycling those, and they're easy to recycle.
Okay. So there's multiple things at play here. So I often talk about, I say you don't want these chemicals in our landfill, so have them properly recycled. I have this thing memorized. I've said it 1,000 times. But then in this documentary, like I see, like for example, when these end up in, let's say I'm going to pick on a country like Ghana or something, and there's Philippines maybe, and there's the workers who are kind of tearing it apart are masked up, but these are carcinogens, and some of these elements in your electronics are absolutely hazardous to the health of workers who would be processing them.
They are. We don't export anything to a non-OECD country. It's against all of our rules. And in fact, everything that we get back is dealt with here in Canada at the first stage. So there is either manual disassembly, or then ultimately in the next phase, it goes to a shredder where it's then, split up into various types of materials. So you can get various grades of plastic, you can get all the metals out, ferrous and non-ferrous, and those things all get separated as well so that they can go back into the supply chain. And so we don't ship material offshore. We don't take your cell phone or your computer and just send it over to the Philippines or Ghana. That's not something that we would allow.
Okay, so essentially I was reading there was 3,100 locations across the country. Approximately.
Yes. And
okay.
growing. I was actually my team was in town this week, and we were going through the review, and I'm sitting there, and the guy from Manitoba says, "Well, I've just added 4 new sites," and the guy from BC says, "Well, I've added 3 more, and they're First Nations." And the woman in New Brunswick said, "Well, I've got 2 more that are starting, that'll be being placed by the end of the year." And then the woman from Saskatchewan jumps in and says, "Well, I've got..." So our goal is to continuously improve with respect to both the awareness targets out there so that people know what to do with this, that they can bring it back safely to us, but also to make the access easier for everybody. And so the more locations we can get, the better.
What you're doing is kind of amazing. So real life stories. So I've been talking about recyclemyelectronics.ca. And then finally I was doing some spring cleaning, because this is going to prompt some more questions I had during the process. But I literally have old laptops that haven't been booted up in 8, 9, 10 years. And then the cabling that comes with that. I have a whole whack. We'll get back to this, but I have a whole whack of cables that are from, they're obsolete technology now. I don't know if these old cables from the 90s. I had so much that I went to recyclemyelectronics.ca, and one of the locations that was very convenient for me was a Staples near Sherway Gardens. Okay. And I'm like, okay, this is so slick. It's so easy to do. Here I am doing it. I've heard from so many listeners who have done the same thing. And it just, the fact that, these we're properly recycling these electronics instead of them ending up in the landfill. And this nightmare doc I saw on Netflix, I was screaming at the documentary, recyclemyelectronics.ca. That's the solution.
It is the solution. Best Buy and Staples are great places to take them back. You're often going, especially with a Best Buy, you're going to be going new tech while you're there. So take your old tech in.
Right. Swap it out here.
Absolutely.
And it's shocking to me. This is the phone I'm currently rocking, which is a Google Pixel. But my old LG Android phone, which has been recycled at the Staples near Sherway Gardens. But it's shocking how many nasty chemicals are in that phone. It's just shocking once you break it down.
It is. You really want to be careful and make sure. The other thing that is a real concern these days is getting the batteries out of all of these things. There are various types of batteries, but the lithium-ion batteries especially are ones that we want to make sure are handled properly. They can be hazardous with respect to fire. And so you really want to make sure that and all the processors take the batteries out. So that phone of yours that I see sitting there, that's now the Pixel. I've got a Samsung, but
we're in the Android family.
We're in the Android family, but they're sealed now. You used to be able to open up your phone and get your battery out. Same with your computer. You look at that computer now, you cannot get your battery out of there. So they have to open them up manually. Somebody has to physically take that device, open it up, and get the battery out, and the batteries then get recycled properly as well. And capturing that lithium is very important. It's valuable.
One of the most frequently asked questions I get is about batteries. Is there anything you're doing for just regular batteries? I got to replace the batteries in my smoke detector. What do I do with the old ones?
They will also go back. You can take those back certainly to Best Buy, I believe to Staples as well, but the municipal sites are there. There's a different organization that has sole battery responsibility. Having said that, as EPRA, if you bring your batteries back with your device and they happen to, land in the same place, we deal with them. We make sure that they're recycled properly.
Well, amazing, amazing. One again, I'm referencing the doc because it's so fresh in my mind. But they said when developers and designers are meeting to, I don't know, the next tablet that they're going to build or whatever, and they have these conversations, they don't consider end of life. Like these things are sort of built to be disposable now, right? It's like you pointed out. I remember back in the day with my desktop, like, oh, I'm going to replace the hard drive now. You know, you crack it open, in the slot, in the motherboard, you could just replace the hard. Like it was a world where you could upgrade yourself the device, and you could modify, and if one part breaks, you don't have to replace the whole thing, you just replace that one part. And nowadays they build these things like this laptop. When a part of this laptop goes, okay, I'll buy another laptop, right? But they're not, these people are not considering end of life, but you are.
We are. Now, the Geek Squad at Best Buy will help you try and fix some things. You get a cracked screen or something like
sure.
that. They will do some of those things depending upon the state and where you decide to go. The other thing that's going on, and it's funny because we've just started in the last 2 years, we haven't even published the one. I was looking at it, as I say, with my team this week, something called the Greening Report. And so what we're doing is trying to track the trends of what manufacturers are doing to improve what's in electronics, to show why things are improving and why there are less hazardous materials. So lead is a perfect example, and I could give you a great chart on lead, but the result of what used to be CRTs and monitors and televisions that were cathode ray tube televisions all had leaded glass in the front of them.
Right.
They haven't been made in any volume since 2009. Now, we're still getting a lot of them back. But what we have to do is we have to cut the front off of those televisions, take that leaded glass, and ultimately get it to ideally a smelter, but somewhere like that where they can turn it back into lead ingots, or where they can use it. In some cases, they're grinding it up and using it with concrete. So there's a number of different solutions where it's not then getting into a landfill where it will leach into our water tables.
My goodness, bless you. Now, what are you doing later today? Here's the deal. So, like, this is a while ago now, but I was taking a photo on the Humber Bay Bridge where the Humber River meets the Lake Ontario. And long story short, this thing on my bike where I would put my phone, this mount, it has a spring in it. Anyway, so the spring mount propels my phone into Lake Ontario. Do you want to help me find it? It's on the bottom of, it's my old phone on the bottom of Lake Ontario. If we can find it, we can recycle it at one of your 3,100 locations.
We could get a couple of kayaks, maybe some. I don't know.
Kayak?
Yes, I do. I do kayak. I am not a good swimmer though, so I will. We could get a 2-person kayak. I'd get you out to the spot, and you can dive down and get it.
I'll dive in. I started kayaking for my at TMLX15, which was at Great Lakes Brewery. By the way, I have fresh craft beer for you, Cliff, to take with you. Thank you, Great Lakes Brewery. But I was gifted by the listenership. I was gifted a kayak that folds like origami. It folds into a backpack, and I bike to Lake Ontario or Humber River, and then I build it out on the beach or whatever, and then I do a little paddle. We should go kayaking one day.
I would love that. And I bike across that bridge all the time. So when the weather is decent, I cycle down. I play tennis down in that vicinity. And so I cycle down right across that bridge. I go down through the Humber Trail, across the lakeshore on that the Martin Goodman Trail, and it's awesome.
Are you playing at the Boulevard Club? Where are you, Cliff?
That's where I am.
Okay, I passed. That's where I am. I noticed, this is what I noticed, because that ride I do maybe 5 days a week. I'm going by that. But there's these 2 sets of courts, the Boulevard Club courts and then the public courts.
Yes.
You're at the Boulevard Club courts.
Yes, but I've played on the public ones as well.
Okay, good. So you're a common man as well, like myself there. So you and I on a kayak, we're gonna find this phone and we're gonna get it properly recycled. Otherwise, it's just who knows what's going on at the bottom of the Lake Ontario there. A great question came in from Jeremy Hopkin, who is on the live stream at live.torontomike.com. So hello to J-Ho, the official Toronto historian of the Toronto Mike podcast. You should listen. Every quarter he drops by and we have a different topic. He's amazing. You, Cliff, should listen to the Jeremy Hopkin historical episodes of Toronto Mike.
Okay, so I got Andy Kim and Jeremy Hopkins. Got it.
As long as you're taking notes over there. Jeremy writes, every time you plug them on the podcast, that's me, and I plug you guys every episode, I wonder how they deal with electronic antiques, such as 1920s radios, 1950s televisions, etc., if they don't just flat out refuse to take them. Can you speak to that? The old stuff?
We take the old stuff. So I guess so. One of the things that I spoke about earlier was each province has a different set of regulated products. Right. Now the best right now is British Columbia and then Prince Edward Island. So British Columbia is everything with a battery and a plug. And our model, the revenue comes from the sale of new material, but we take everything old back. It doesn't matter how old it is.
That's good to know. He has another question. He's wondering about the more contemporary equipment that is currently being sought after by archivists so they can perform legacy media transfers. He's thinking like beta cassettes. Did you ever own a beta player?
I went straight to VHS. I skipped beta.
You know what? You're smart. You don't want to be on the bleeding edge. Okay.
No, but I'm told beta actually was better technology. Yeah. It just didn't take off.
100%. I heard it was better. It just didn't take off. Did you own a Laserdisc player?
I did.
Okay. Did you own The Godfather on Laserdisc?
No.
Okay. I'm just curious. So I don't even know exactly what the question is here, but maybe, I don't know. He's wondering about the equipment being sought after for archivists to do legacy media.
I think I know where he's going. I know where he's going.
Okay, tell me where he's going.
So this is a request we get commonly, and you just have to picture, first of all, if you take the city of Toronto as an example, okay. All of the material, when you go to drop something off there, goes into a big bin, basically a sea container, and it all gets jammed in together. By the time it comes back to us, there's a great deal of damage to it. It's hard to find anything that functions. And we've actually done audits on this material. And from what comes back to us, less than 3% can actually be powered up. Less than 1% has any functional use whatsoever. And so going through all of that, the cost and the time to go through all of that and find anything of value is really tough. The other issue for us, and depending on what the device is data security. And so when people bring things back to EPRA, to Recycle My Electronics, what you get is a guarantee that we are going to turn that into dust. It is no longer going to be something that people can access. You're not going to have to worry about your identity
my next
theft.
Question.
Well,
this is great.
That's what we do. And if you have something like that, if you're out there and you're looking to take something back and you think this has value, don't bring it directly to us. Take it to one of the reuse entities. Right. If it's a computer, Computers for Schools are looking for this stuff all the time. So, they're a charity organization, a national, federally funded organization that we work with across the country. They'd love to take stuff like that back.
And because Jeremy's on the live stream, he was clarifying. You nailed it there, Cliff. You know exactly what J-Ho's talking about. He was wondering if you would spare these things, like if somebody brought in a Laserdisc player and it functioned. But like you said, so, you're not getting very much functional electronics.
No, there's not much come back. So most of the things come back to us are truly end of life.
And you just touched on it, but I'll ask my question anyway so we can really bang this point home. So like I said, I had multiple laptops that haven't been booted up in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And I don't even know why I kept them. I'm sure I kept them because I thought, hey, maybe one day I'll need a file. Like I try to put all my files on Google Drive. Yeah. But I thought, maybe one day this old PSD file I have from 2001, I might need it for a client or something. So I kept them hanging around. But of course, they're old OS, so I did boot them up, and then I looked for the magic, how to wipe this hard drive. But the old OSs, it's not easy. Okay, this is not as easy as pressing a button. So I was curious. Do I have to wipe these? And when I say wipe, I don't mean with a sanitization napkin. I'm talking about remove all the data and stuff from the hard drive for security purposes. But you said I don't have to do that.
Well, you don't. But if it makes you feel more comfortable, one of the things that on the older computers that you can do is you can take the hard drive out of them. And if you take the hard drive out, you can drill it. And so if you drill some holes in it, half a dozen holes randomly across a hard drive, then you are going to absolutely destroy the RAM, and the people will not be able to recover that.
Okay, so if you want to get a good drill and do that. Now, another fun fact I learned on the website. I was preparing for your visit. Love it very much. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to a very special event. But before I get there, I was reading that 80% of Canadians have unused electronics. And I'm here to tell you, Cliff, I think 80%, I think that number's low.
I think you're right. I think it's low. We have done some studies that tell us that people keep things in their drawers, in their basements, in their garages. And, one of the bigger challenges, and we were talking about this as an organization just this week, is the rural aspect of things. So the woman who runs Saskatchewan, her challenge is, how do you get people to get things out of their barns? Because, Saskatchewan has a lot of rural area, right. and they do not, they're not going to put that in their car or their truck and drive it down to a recycling center. They just toss it in the barn. And so how do you motivate them to take action as opposed to just saying, oh, yeah, we'll just stick it over there. We got lots of room here.
No, that's a good point here. But when I was thinking 80% of Canadian, I'm wondering if I could talk to these 20% who have no unused electronics in the home. Like, these are like minimalists. Maybe they're Luddites and they don't have any technology, but I'd like to talk to these people.
Well, maybe you've got somebody who's in a very small condo and can't have any room for storing those kinds of things.
Okay, let me see their kitchen. You know the junk drawers we all have? Let me take a peek inside that junk drawer. Mr. 20%.
It's the cell phones that tend to stick around. People look at them and think, oh, well, I've got pictures on there, or I'm gonna, I may need it again. What if my phone breaks down? And so it tends to be the cell phones that people have around. And I will confess, I've got a very old, early generation BlackBerry, which I have not recycled just because it has some sentimental value.
Is it the blue one? I have a Blueberry, the blue BlackBerry that I had like in 2006.
I'll take a picture and send it to you. You can see it's this one's black, but I did have a Blueberry as well at one point.
Wow. Okay, memory lane. So one of the questions I got was about printers. So I have a beef with the printer industry. Like, I know you maybe in the past life you worked for a printer manufacturer. We might have dropped their name, but it feels to me like printers are, I don't know, they're made to be disposed of in like 18 months. Like, it's like, buy this printer. It might work for 18 months and then something's going to bust up and you'll have to buy another one. But you do, of course, you can recycle these printers when they bust up. Absolutely.
We want the printers. We want the cartridges that come with them back. That can all be recycled.
All right. Look at this. I'm taking notes here. My wife's going to be very happy. If I have an office, this came from Ian Service. So Ian Service, who owns the server that is hosting this very audio file. So shout out to Ian Service, and he'll be at TMLX 17, and this is because I'm going to invite you to a very special event, Cliff, in just a moment. But he's got like big office equipment, like it required a whole big pickup truck to move some of these big things. Like, if you have huge office equipment that you're ready to recycle, like, is there any way to get a pickup? Like, will somebody at recyclemyelectronics.ca come and pick it up?
If it is an entire installation, there are people that we work with. So in some cases, this material is all leased and the lease companies want it back. Right. But if that's not the case and it was purchased and it was a large amount of material that was, a truckload of material, then we could find a way to make that happen.
Wow. Okay. I'm now going to invite you to an important event, Cliff. And if you're busy, or maybe you get a tennis match, I will have to just deal with that. But on Saturday, November 30th, and everyone listening is invited as well, so brick up your freaking ears. November 30th, it's not too many, a couple of Saturdays from now, at noon, so from noon to 3 p.m., we're doing a live recording at Palma's Kitchen in Mississauga. So Palma's Kitchen, we're on the second floor. I'm going to be recording for this 3 hours. Everybody who comes to this event, which is TMLX 17, our 17th Toronto Mike listener experience, will get a free meal, a delicious free meal from Palma Pasta. By the way, Cliff, I'm sending you home with a large lasagna from Palma Pasta. It's in my freezer right now, so don't leave without that. But TMLX 17, we'll do a live recording. You get a free meal, and you get a can of fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery. I'll be bringing that as well. Cliff, by any chance, can you make an appearance and pop on the mic and say hi at TMLX 17 on November 30th?
You know what? When I I was warned by Amy that this may happen, but I thought it was going to be
surprise.
No, but it's a good thing because she had indicated that it was going to be this Saturday, and I am playing tennis this Saturday, but on the 30th. I am free.
Oh my God.
And okay. I will be there.
You know what? Did you hear that, FOTMs? Cliff Hacking in the flesh, November 30th, noon to 3 p.m. That's amazing. So you, Alan Cross, will be a cast of heavyweights.
I will drop in.
Humble Howard's going to be there. Okay, amazing. And come hungry, darling.
Okay.
Okay, you
You
know
and Ruth Chris.
Yeah, and you got your I don't know, you didn't respond because you were putting that in your calendar, but
That's exactly what I was doing.
You got the lasagna. I'm gonna repeat it, but you got the lasagna in my freezer. You're going home with that today.
I appreciate that. And there's a nice link. You probably do this on purpose, but when you do your intro, you go from our end-of-life electronics to Ridley Funeral Homes. And that's kind of a nice bridge if you think about it.
Well, I'm always thinking about everything, Cliff. You know that. And on that note, Ridley Funeral Home, who have an excellent podcast called Life's Undertaking, and Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home, who will be at TMLX 17, so you guys can meet. Brad was here yesterday to record an episode of his podcast, and people should listen to that. We did a mailbag episode with frequently asked questions of Brad about the podcast. So listen to the most recent episode of Life's Undertaking. I'll give you a device to do that with. And here's your measuring tape, Cliff. You
That's
can
awesome.
measure your tennis racket, whatever you want.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you. I appreciate that.
There you go. You didn't know all this swag was coming here. So one more gift, and then if no pressure, but if you had a gift for me, that'd be awesome. But I'm going to give you one more gift. So we're talking about recycling, electronics. And I always talk to people, your old device, your old cables, whatever. And then I give everybody a new device that hopefully doesn't reach end of life anytime soon. But this is a quality wireless speaker from Moneris. Right there for you, Cliff.
It's awesome. Thank you.
But you have to earn that by listening. And this is fun and easy, and it's very educational. But you will listen to Yes, We Are Open. So Yes, We Are Open is an award-winning podcast from Moneris, hosted by FOTM Al Grego. You'll meet Al Grego, the cuddly bearded one, at TMLX 17 on November 30th. He'll be there for sure. Al went to Winnipeg, and his most recent episode from season 7 is he went to Jenna Ray Cakes, co-owned by twin sisters Jenna Hutchinson and Ashley Kosawan. Their dream began 15 years ago in their small apartment, sparked by an episode of Cake Boss, and it grew into a legitimate business despite numerous legal and logistical hurdles. So this small business, Jenna Ray Cakes, we find out the story of triumphs and tribulations, and Al does a great job capturing these stories. And that is the latest episode in season 7 of Yes, We Are Open. So you know what you'll be listening to, Cliff.
I love it. And when you say Cake Boss, it reminds me of one of the cleanest comics, who unfortunately isn't with us anymore, John Panette. And I don't know if you've listened to him, but when he talks about Cake Boss, that skit it cracks me up every time. It really does.
And he had a catchphrase. It's killing me that it's not popping in my head right away, but he had this term he would say in a certain way that I would often repeat, but hopefully it comes back to me by the end of this episode. But he had a catchphrase that I quite liked. But we lost him far too soon.
We did.
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home.
And we do our own podcast. We have a Welcome Diversion. We've had Mark Saltzman on it a number of times. We did a podcast on batteries, which we talked about earlier. We've also talked about what happens with plastics, and we're getting ready to film 3 to 5 more in February. So we're on it.
Next time you have Mark Saltzman on, who's an FOTM, ask him about his early grunge band days, because I talked to you earlier about your barbershop quartet that you were in, but that was before he got into the sort of tech journalism, Mark was an aspiring musician.
I will ask him. I will absolutely ask him.
He was an up-and-coming grunge act. If not for a change here and there, his band could have been the next, the next Rusty. Who knows what we would have been dealing with there, and then it would have been an alternate history. Okay, here's a big question for you. Now that I've got you comfy, this is the Andy Kim moment where you're comfy, you're settled in, but the big question I get is, this is Leslie who sent this in, but I heard it from a number of people. How the heck do you guys make money? How is this wonderful project funded?
It's a great question. So the revenue model for what we do is based on new sales. So that cell phone that you have over there, depending on what province you bought it in, and the rates can change, but I'm going to say it was roughly somewhere between 7 and 10 cents that you contributed to the revenue model, which comes to me, which then allows us to be able to recycle anything that people bring back. We are a not-for-profit company, so profit isn't an issue for us. All we do is make sure that we match our balance sheet so that what comes in pays for what gets recycled properly. And we do have, in terms of the properly part of things, The other thing that we can assure people about is that we have inspectors, we have auditors who actually go out to each of our processors to ensure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they're not, shuffling something off to the side and putting it in a container and sending it to one of those places you mentioned, that it's actually being dealt with properly, and that the health and safety of the workers in those areas is being respected as well.
Well, that's good to hear. You got to, audit these people and share. By the way, the catchphrase, bring it back to John Pinette for a minute, who I thought was very funny too. I think it was something like this. I'll try to do my best imitation. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Something like that he did at the end of a bit. And I found myself repeating this over the years.
Yeah, he was great. He really was.
I don't care, but I do care about this here. Okay. Yeah. So, what, this is on your website, and there's a question of what is a steward?
A steward is like a customer to us, if you will. So that's either, could be a retailer, could be a manufacturer.
Like Staples would be a steward.
Staples would be a steward, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Best Buy.
And Best Buy.
Yes.
So these are basically like when somebody in Saskatchewan has 3 new stewards, basically, which is somebody, you're accrediting these places to be a drop-off place to properly.
The stewards are really the people who are selling the material. So it could be the mom and pop shop. It could be the big Best Buy itself. It could be the Staples store that you talked about. It could be London Drug. It could, you go across the country, any of those places, and as I say, there are a lot of mom and pop shops. And our product has expanded. In fact, this year we've had 4 provinces who have expanded their product capabilities, and in 3 of those 4, we now do small appliances as well. And so those are coming across the country as well. So, if you think about, vacuum cleaners or coffee machines or your toaster, all of those things are now eligible in British Columbia, in Prince Edward Island, in Nova Scotia, and in Newfoundland and Labrador, amazingly. So they're way ahead of a lot of other provinces in order to take back small appliances, which is great.
In Ontario, can I recycle jokes?
Yes, you can, especially old dad jokes. I know you're a father, so old dad jokes are the best.
Thank goodness. On the live stream, Jeremy's amazed it's not for profit. I don't know if people. I haven't mentioned that, not for profit.
Well, there's a purpose for that. We are not in the business, as many other people are, of trying to make money. What we're trying to do is the right thing for the environment. That's our sole goal, is to make sure that we're compliant with regulations across the 10 provinces, and to make sure that while we're doing that we're doing environmentally correct work, and that things are being respected in terms of the best practices for how you recycle.
I gave you a bunch of gifts, Cliff, and here I am sitting here wondering why nothing came back in return. No reciprocation. Why don't you have a gift for me?
Well, I actually have a couple of things for you.
Okay. So now I'll start recording.
Now you can start. So we've got a bag that that folds down and comes back together for when you go shopping, and it's a recyclable bag. And it says "Recycle My Electronics" on it, but it is really sturdy. So if you got something heavy you need to carry, that's where you put it.
Love it so much, and I saw you bring it in, and so tip me off.
I also have a backpack for you.
Okay, I love backpacks because I bike everywhere.
And in the backpack are some other treats. There might be a couple of pens. There might be a couple of USBs.
Wow.
There might also be a couple of flashlights, which are recyclable. And all of this is, stuff that hopefully you will use between you and your family.
I love this very much. Thank you very much. And just a little heads up, if you did bring things like that to TMLX 17 on November 30th, then, well, obviously you'll come on the mic and wish everybody a festive season and just say hello. But you then could give some people in the crowd these gifts as well.
Absolutely. That sounds like a good idea.
No pressure here. No pressure here. Okay, thank you so much for the gifts here. I have a note from Mark. So I guess it was about a year ago when you were last here, and we were kicking out some recycling jams, and I enjoyed that very much as well. But he says, I remember a year ago, you were excited when Cliff bought in for a year, and my reaction was, Mark's reaction was, here's a guy. This is you, Cliff, not me. I'm never ahead of any curves. But he goes, here's a guy ahead of the curve in terms of where media is headed. So Mark, who people know used to have regular appearances on Toronto Mike, who's like, I won't call him futurist, but he's always monitoring, where is the media going? What's the future here? I guess so radio starts to die. What starts to take its place, et cetera, et cetera. He was very impressed by your foresight in renewing for a year of partnership with Toronto Mic'd.
We're always happy to work with Toronto Mic'd, and when you think about how you target and the way things have changed, when I started, this organization, as you say, being the founding member, we start to look forward and we look at what we're doing. We were doing television, we were doing some radio, we were doing some print ads. These days we do all of that, but we're finding far more effectively are the podcasts to try and hit the younger generation. We're using social media for geo-targeting to say, you know what, in this particular area of New Brunswick, we're not getting the uptake that we'd like, so we would really like to go after this group. And so, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, we use a number of different vehicles to try and target specific populations to say, we know that we're not getting back from this particular district the same rate of electronics for end of life that we would from other places. So we absolutely are trying to continue to evolve. And one of the things that we love is the partnership that we have with you here at Toronto Mic'd. It's fantastic.
So one of the common themes pretty much every episode, I'll have somebody like an Andy Kim here, and at some point I'll let them know it's because I used to say just electronics and old devices and laptops and phones, etc. And then I realized by talking to you, you mentioned last time you were on, you talked about cables. And it was like, oh my God, like everyone I know has a drawer full of cables, old cables. So I started talking. So there's essentially, 200 conversations in 2024 where some level of celebrity tells me about the drawer full of cables or the box of cables. And we talk about these cables that haven't been used since the early 2000s or the 90s or whatever here. So this sparked an idea with Tyler Campbell, co-host of FOTM Cast. Him and Cam Gordon once a quarter kind of talk about everything in the TMU. And this is from Tyler. If recyclemyelectronics.ca signs up for another year, he will produce a supercut of these celebrities telling me, Toronto Mike, about all the cables that they've been hoarding, and we will air that during the next FOTM Cast.
I just add a corollary to that. They have to do something with them. They have to bring them in. Maybe they bring them in, and we put a collection bin in your driveway, and they all have to bring them as they come here and drop them off because it's no good keeping them in the drawers.
I like that idea.
I'm signing up.
Wait, so hold on. I wish I had a sound effect for this here. I don't want to bury that lead. Am I hearing correctly? Am I hearing in my headphones right now, Cliff Hacking? Are you telling me the EPRA, the good people behind recyclemyelectronics.ca, are renewing for 2025?
Not only that, but we're hoping, just like you have a recycling bin in your driveway for your cardboard and your cans, if you'd like a very small recycling bin that we can keep there, and when it's full, you call us and we take it away.
Oh my God.
We can make that happen. And then you can tell your guests, bring it here.
Oh no. Cliff, this is, you know what? You're my new VP of sales. Sorry, Tyler, I've got a new guy. That's a great idea. And because I always say, knock on the side door. There's certain instructions. Don't hit your head on the ceiling. I could add to that. Bring any old, any old cables or devices that you no longer want. Bring them for the recyclemyelectronics.ca bin. 100. We can have it down here in the studio.
Absolutely.
I love this idea.
We've got big ones and small ones, but we could get one that would fit quite nicely. And headphones. You fly in Air Canada and you get one of those little earphones, and then they break pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're so crappy.
But they're recyclable. So all of that stuff. It's just like the cables you're talking about. You've got to bring that stuff back.
Okay, that's such a good idea, but that triples the price of the partnership. But we'll talk about that later. Is your jacket?
You've got an agent. I got one too. So we'll let them talk.
The negotiations begin here. Okay, I did record this conversation, by the way. You've got a nice jacket, and you're on the live stream. And there's a question on the live stream: if that jacket is from the old Hidehouse, it's worth the drive to Acton.
It is worth the drive. I have bought things from the Hidehouse. This one is not.
Did you know it's closing?
I did not. No.
Yeah, this is like fresh news. The old Hidehouse, which is, if you've got obviously this is Toronto Mike, so most people here are familiar with the GTA, but we just grew up with it's worth the drive. Worth the drive to Acton was just something everywhere. Although I will tell you, if you're encountering a young person and you tell them, like they'll say something about, oh, I'm going to go to Acton and pick apples or something. And if you say, well, it's worth the drive, they look at you funny.
They too.
Like this is happening now. It's like I'm dropping these references and I'm like, oh, that requires like I need to give like
some context.
Yes, they need to be educated.
Yes,
okay,
they do.
We got to talk. Like, what is my? But I actually find, and I don't know if you do this, but I drop references like everybody has the same touchstones as me, and then I realize, oh, not everybody is. It's not everyone is wired like me. Maybe it's me and Andy Kim. We're in a select group here, but. I don't know if I sound weird or this guy's saying strange things. It's like, but to me, it's like, I know I'm speaking this language that is not shared by everybody.
No, it's got to do with shared experience for sure. I mean, I'm sitting looking across from you and I see the Sam the Record Man. Not everybody knows about Sam the Record Man. Now, there was one that up until recently, there was one existing that stayed in place but is gone.
Do you know where it was? Belleville, I want to say.
Yes, yeah, Belleville, yeah, out that way, yes. Kingston, Belleville, yeah, probably, yeah. Was out there somewhere.
Bay of Quinte, what do they call
Could
that?
be, Bay of Quinte, could be, yes.
Okay.
So it was out there somewhere for sure. But they also took the big Sam sign and saved it. So I believe it is, now you're testing my memory here, but I'm going to say that it went to what used to be Ryerson University, kind of where the old Maple Leaf Gardens is, that it's in that area somewhere.
See, I feel like it's in the Young Dundas area.
You
like
may
it's
be right.
Young Dundas Square, maybe?
Yeah.
It's funny how we don't know this off the top of our head. I'm sure I've seen it, but I don't think it is where the old Maple Leaf Gardens is. I think it's in Young Dundas Square, and it definitely is on a building that's they call it TMU now.
Yes.
The formerly known as.
I have irreverently referred to it as MUT.
MUT.
Yeah, it's probably not Metropolitan University of Toronto, MUT.
Right.
So it's
because
probably
TMU is
it's easy
Toronto
to
Mike
remember.
Universe. Everybody
Yes.
knows that. By the way, this was a gift for my 50th birthday from. It was from Rob Pruce, keyboardist for Spoons. I know you're a big fan of Romantic Traffic.
Yep.
And it was drawn by FOTM Kurt Swinghammer. So Kurt Swinghammer is a very good artist, and this is one of his prints that
That's
Rob
awesome.
bought for me. It's a limited edition. I see Kurt signed it on the bottom. So
Yeah.
Sam the Record Man. There was a location I used to go to as a kid at Jane and Bloor. So West End of Toronto, and I used to waltz over and buy 45 singles for my record player that I bought at Consumers Distributing.
Yes. Yes.
And I Consumers Distributing would have sold a lot of electronics that have would be now showing up at your one of your 3,100 stewards across this country.
Yeah, they're long out of business, but that's for sure. I used to go to the downtown one. I used to find the selection was better, and
way
so
better.
I would go down to the Yonge Street store, and I loved it down there.
Way better. Did you see the Tragically Hip documentary on Prime?
I did, yes.
That was fascinating to me that they got some deal, Towers Records or something. There was some opportunity they had to promote their album that they turned down because they were loyal to Sam the Record Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, no, we're Sam the Record Man guys. Like they turned down this big deal. I want to say Towers Records.
It sounds right. Yeah,
sounds
and,
right to
and
me.
you have to respect that. The loyalty aspect of things is important in life.
But the kicker on that was that shortly thereafter, Sam the Record Man would publish this magazine, and they were kind of because of course Sam the Record Man was ignorant to the fact that the hip guys had done this, but they were like lambasted in this magazine. So it's like, we just sacrificed and cost ourselves a small fortune or whatever, and now you're just like going at us in the magazines. So this has been amazing. That is such fantastic news. I know there's a lot of applause in the GTA right now as they hear those nice words about renewing for 2025. I love the idea of the bin in the TMDS basement studio here, where guests can bring their old gear, their old electronics, their old cables, etc., etc. So we mentioned EPRA starts in 2011. Off the top, I referred to you as, I want to get the title right, founding president and CEO. So now we're looking back at 13 plus years, if that math is correct. I used to be good at math. Like, what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of, Cliff Hacking, with regards to Electronic Products Recycling Association 13 years later?
I'd say two things. I think the culture we've created as an organization internally, I'm extremely proud of. The team that I get to work with, the people. So I've got people that, Dennis Neufeld, who was the very first employee in Manitoba. We hired him in 2012. He's still with us. He was here in town this week. does just an amazing job. Craig Weishart in BC, again, with us since 2011, there since day one, still working with us, working hard, doing a great job. So we've built a culture where people like coming to work. We try and do the right things as far as they're concerned, which mirrors what we try and do as far as the environment is concerned. We're an ethical organization, and we really do care about what we do. And I think that shows both internally in our culture, which then allows us to be able to function externally and deliver against our mandate.
If you had that gathering of these fine people, you said it was last week where everybody collected?
Yes.
If you had timed it better, I would have fed them all at TMLX 17 on November 30th. Everyone, again, this is a free event. You show up, you get a free meal. I would have fed them. So tell the GTA-based people that you work with, tell them there's a delicious free lunch and a delicious can of fresh craft beer waiting for them at TMLX 17 on November 30th.
I'm doing a virtual all-employee meeting next Tuesday, and I will do the pitch for you.
Cliff, love these conversations so much. Can't wait to have another one in 2025. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm a fiercely independent podcaster here running his own digital services business. So it really, and again, no BS here. It means a lot to get a commitment like you just made. It just allows me to focus on the creative end, the logistics, the capturing of these stories. I got some amazing episodes in store, and you make that possible. So thank you, recyclemyelectronics.ca, and thank you, FOTM Cliff Hacking.
It's great to be here, and Toronto Mic'd is not just Toronto. It's across the country, so everybody needs to pay attention to that. It matters.
It matters. And that... By the way, and that the way I'd say it was coined by Stu Stone, and I just want to tell the listenership that Stu Stone will be back on Toronto Mic'd in a couple of weeks' time. So look forward to Stu Stone's return. And that brings us to the end of our 1,584th show. You can follow me on, I'm all over, I'm on Blue Sky now. I'm at torontomike.com there. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Much love to all who made this possible. First and foremost, recyclemyelectronics.ca. Go there, find out where to drop off those old... Do it. It's one thing to say, I got some old crap I got to get rid of, but you got to do it. You got to drop it off at a recyclemyelectronics.ca location. Go to that website right now. Great Lakes Brewery. Thank you, Great Lakes, for sending over some beer for TMLX 17 on November 30th. Palma Pasta, thank you for hosting and feeding us. I am going to come very hungry. I'm going to stop eating now, Cliff. I will be so hungry by November 30th. It's going to be delicious. Raymond James Canada, Moneris. Can't wait to see you, Al, at TMLX 17. Ridley Funeral Home. Brad, I'll see you there. And I'll see everybody, no joke, Cliff, at 3 o'clock today. There's a doubleheader today. At 3 o'clock today, Victoria Matiash makes her Toronto Mike debut. See you all then.